first of all, being willing to take risks has been really, really important. And what I mean by that is going into situations that are very difficult, situations that are very challenging, whether it be from a business point of view, or whether it be a team point of view or a market perspective, and not being really afraid to fail. I think that was incredibly important to my journey, across my time at Google. I think that's number one. Being able to take risks or being willing to take risks and not being afraid to fail. A willingness and an openness to take risks and being comfortable with failure, I think has been something that's been very important. But in saying that, just to be really clear, you can only do that when you're supported by amazing leaders and supported by people who really trust you and give you, the ability to go out and, sort of take on big challenges and support you through that in very meaningful ways. To be really willing to fail.
Fail fast.
Yeah, you need to be willing to fail, and it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done because when you experience failure, it's difficult.
Yes.
It's difficult.
Yes, it's very difficult.
But being able to celebrate that failure is super important. And what I mean by that is...
Celebrate that failure.
Yeah, so let me explain what I mean by that, because that might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but if you set out a really, really audacious goal and you couple that audacious goal with a really granular plan, and then you couple that plan and that audacious goal with really, really focused execution, you got no worries. It's okay if you fail. What's probably not okay is having a really, really audacious plan, not coupling it with, beg your pardon, audacious vision, not coupling it with a plan and then not having focused execution, then you wouldn't celebrate that. So as long as you can couple these things together, then it's okay to fail. And when that failure happens, it's important that the people that were involved in that failure don't feel embarrassed, scorned, punished. That's, from a leadership point of view, the most important thing is that you capture that moment to really, help the team see that this is okay. As long as we have a really, granular plan and we have focused execution, it's okay if things don't necessarily go the way we want them to. If we just fully bake it out and make sure it's absolutely perfect, we'll probably miss the opportunity. So I think that's really, really important when it comes to innovation.
Have you ever failed before?
Many times. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I would say this, that very rarely have I failed for lack of trying. I think that I've always given it my all, and I've always been able to sleep at night, knowing that I tried. And not just tried. I had a very sort of granular plan, so I would spend a lot of time really, really going deep on how we're going to get to where we want to go, and then execute with great velocity. And if I fail, it's okay. That's okay. I've learnt to live with that. We've been able to experience, various levels of success in the businesses that I've, been involved with by really having long-term vision and a very clear idea of where we want to go over, a 3 or a 5 year horizon. And maintaining, I guess, a focus on that while also incorporating a very sort of clear focus on the day-to-day, and being able to balance the two has been something that's been very key, for us. I think about a few things with regard to leadership. First of all, you need to have a very, very audacious vision, a very long-term and audacious vision. It can't be an incremental vision. It can't be a vision that is built around the quarter or the half or the year. We really need to have, something that is truly inspirational for our team, but not just inspirational for our team. It needs to be really focused on doing very, very meaningful things in the country. So for me as a leader, I focus a lot of my time and energy on thinking about what is that long-term view of where we want to go and where we want to be. But then I think for me, it's also about coupling that with a very granular understanding of how we're going to get there. So having a very audacious vision, but also a very granular plan that we revisit, in a very real way, sort of day to day, week to week. So being able to couple these two is very important. When it comes to decision making. Having a commitment to make decisions around 3 principles has been super important for me. So, all of my decision making, I would be, really focused on 1, people, 2, what's best for the business, and then 3, what's best for the market or the country that we're operating within.
People, corporate and country.
Yeah, people, what's best for Google, and then thirdly, what's best for the country. I don't think, making decisions on what is best for me is ever going to get me, that far, right? So, decisions day to day, and they come up, very often that we need to make decisions, and having these sort of 3 really important things at the forefront of decision making, I think, is incredibly important. I'm super conscious of setting the pace.
Setting the pace.
Setting the pace, yeah. So when I say set the pace, I mean, look, we live in an incredibly dynamic world, and tech is an incredibly dynamic sector. And in order to be able to be successful, we need to be able to be very nimble and be able to move very, very quickly. And I think that the pace of an organisation and the pace at which you operate will come from leadership. It really is something that you can set from an example point of view about where we want to be and how we want to get there, sure, but then how quickly we can move is also very critical. Setting the pace as a leader is incredibly important. So setting example and really being, really exemplifying, the pace that you believe is right. I think that's key. But a little bit more than that. Look, I think that if you, consistently push a team and really drive a team without them really understanding, why they're doing what they're doing, giving purpose to what they're doing, then I think that, people lead to burnout very, very quickly. So, we spend a lot of time really trying to connect our vision with what people are doing day to day. Because it really, provides meaning behind what they are trying to achieve on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. Because it does in a very real way, connect to what we're trying to achieve over a very long-term horizon in this country. I've been able to surround myself with amazing people, just incredibly talented and super smart people. But the one thing that has been absolutely critical beyond just having talent is that we've really tried to, I have tried to surround myself with people that are very diverse, diverse in thinking, diverse in beliefs, diverse in backgrounds, because I think that creates a really good, challenging environment. And as a leader, I think one of the things that's been very important to my success in Google is being humble enough to, be very open to different opinions and open to being challenged. And you can only get that if you have, really good, smart people, but also people that think very differently. So I think, these are the factors that have really sort of fed into my journey in Google and helped me get to where I've got to. So, first of all, being very judicious in the talent that you bring in is super important. And we take hiring really seriously. We have a
Very hard
very
job for HR.
yeah, but we're all involved. We're all involved. We have a process that's very very demanding, but demanding for the right reasons. It's not demanding because we want for the sake of being demanding. It's a very demanding process because we really want to make sure we get the right people into our building, some of those characteristics are being able to sort of thrive in chaos and be able to sort of think around corners and be able to respond to challenges and ambiguity. And that if you get people like that into your building, then innovation is something that you can really explore.
What kind of person that Google like?
As in the people that we hire?
Yes.
We like all people, by the way. Look, we don't have a set profile. Google doesn't have a set profile that if you hit this profile, then you're, going to be considered. We like differences in profiles and we like differences in backgrounds. So that's not something that we standardize. But then what we do look for is, we look for 4 different things and 4 different traits and 4 different considerations when hiring. So number one is role-related knowledge. So your background will be considered for a role. So if you're going for a marketing role, we will look at a marketing background, of course.
Yeah, sure.
If you don't have a marketing background, you can still get the role.
Yeah.
So it's not the only thing that we consider. Number two is leadership. And not leadership in terms of just management. You know, we're quite a flat structure. We don't have a lot of managers. But leadership in being able to influence, regardless of whether you have direct line reporting or not. Because the reality is that we have a very matrixed organisation, very cross-functional organisation, where we work together in a way where not everybody is reporting to one person. And we need to really work together to get things done. So that creates a situation where leadership is required regardless of whether you're a manager or not. Can you take a project? Can you get people to go around or get around that project with you and drive it through to completion and execution? So we look for different characteristics which indicate people can lead, and show autonomy and really drive things through and take people with them. So that's the second piece. The last two get a little bit more opaque. I think there is one element that we look at called GCA, or General Cognitive Ability. The way that we should view this is it's effectively, can people problem solve? Can they take complex problems? Can they break them down? And in a digestible way communicate it as to how they would get through to resolution. That's effectively what GCA is, to me anyway, and there's probably a more formal definition of it, but it's effectively problem solving and being able to think around corners. And then finally, there is a set of characteristics that we would consider googliness.
Googliness.
We call it googliness, yeah. And this is things like thriving in ambiguity, thinking very, very big, and thinking 10x in nature.
I heard that before.
Yeah. And then also, I think really, really key is focusing on the user and focusing on the customer first. This is super important to the people that we bring in. We want we want people with that mentality of really caring for our users and making sure that we're serving them in a really meaningful way.